or a Herzog or a Wafatapu or even a Rome.
Absolutely. Yep. And it looks like Ming's going to lead on a Merfolk, an Amiiboid Changeling, while the Spaniard has Winnower Patrol and Elvish Warrior. There's the turn 3 Drowner Secrets. That's exactly where Ming wants to be, is milling early. And when we look at, for players watching at home, when we look at this type of situation, typically we think of two players attacking one another as a race. So the resource is life, and you're trying to race your opponent and put them to 0 before you are with your creatures. This situation where Ming's going to be trying to deck his opponent is still a race. The resources have changed slightly, so it's Ming's life total versus his opponent's deck size, Kalefeld.
Yep. Now, just to let you know, you will not miss the decider of Nikolai Herzog's match. You will see that in its entirety against Marcio Carvalho. We will hold that for you, so you will not miss a thing. But listen, if you are in China and you are watching us, and you have got yourself online and you have navigated your way to magicthegathering.com, you are really, really welcome here. It's great to have you here. It's great to see a Chinese player in the top 8. The globalization of the game continues. And you know what? There's enough people in China to mean if they keep expanding and this guy becomes a figurehead, we're going to start seeing the same kind of pro numbers as we have from like the Magnificent Seven, Les Sept Magnifiques from France. And we're actually going to start seeing multiple Chinese players in the top 8 in the year of the Beijing Olympics.
Yep, and it's a bit symbolic, as you said. We're here in Asia. We've got an Asian player representing the top, represented in the top 8, and not only that, but right as the Chinese New Year kicks in with the Year of the Rat, and it's such a big celebration here in Kuala Lumpur. We got to see some lion dances at the staff hotel, and so it's nice to see that type of player get a little bit of a payoff for that. It's just symbolic, especially with those Beijing Olympics happening this year. So Ming's going to start milling, and again, if you look at it as a race, his life total is the resource he has. So he has 13 life, and that means his opponent's deck is the resource that he's attacking. Whether or not he's going to be able to race depends on the size of his opponent's deck. Of course, Kalefeld helped his opponent by opening on 7 cards, and he's going to draw 1 card each turn. So if his opponent has 2 Merfolk, he's milling 2 cards each turn. There are 3 cards that are going to be gone each turn. You can divide the total number of cards in the deck by 3, and you'll figure out how fast Ming's clock is compared to the 5 damage he's taking each turn with the Winnower Patrol and the Elvish Warrior.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things, when I was being taught how to play, I was taught by a mono-blue control player extraordinaire.
Yeah.
His idea of a good deck was sort of 24 islands, 24 counter spells, 12 removal spells, and then Aladdin's ring as your win condition. Yeah. And I used to say, so I start on 20 life, right? And he said, no. You start on 19 bonus life. Everything else is irrelevant.
Yep.
And for him, life was just a resource. And it's like, what life you on? 2? No, I'm on 1 bonus life. And it's an interesting way of looking at it when you come at it from that side. It's like anything higher than 0 is totally acceptable.
Yep.
It's only when it dips below that 1 that I'm a little bit concerned.
Yep, and that's exactly right. We get a block out of Ming on the Elvish Warrior with 2/3. Risks a pump spell or some type of pepper smoke, anything like that. Tar fire out of...
But Kalefeld has come out with Plover Knights, and that's mighty pressure once again.
Yep. Interesting play with the Drowner of Secrets. That Winnower Patrol, if it hits on the kinship, Kalefeld chooses to reveal, Ming will still have the opportunity to mill the elf card off the top if he feels it's a significant threat.
In the upkeep before the draw step.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so Ming under a lot of pressure here.
Yep, going in the tank a little bit on his turn. He's in bad shape if he doesn't have some place.
I wonder, when you are the first to do something, do you feel like partly responsible for the development of your country? I mean, it's not something you or I have ever done. I guess I'm the first Englishman in the booth, but that's not really the same. You look at someone like that, does he feel that he is the flag bearer for a country, or is he just, I happen to be Chinese, sure, and I'm proud to be Chinese, but I'm actually Ming Shi and I'm here to take people down because I play Magic?
It's an interesting question, Rich, and I think the best people to ask would be the Japanese players and even the Brazilians. Carlos Romão was sort of that figurehead for the Brazilians early on. Masashiro Kuroda was the first Japanese player to win a Pro Tour, and there were, Satoshi Nakamura many years ago was one of the first Japanese players to sort of globetrot. We had other players top 8ing PTs, things like that. So
I may be about to make a dreadful fool of myself, but I've done that before and will do again. Am I right that John Finkel's only loss in the Swiss was to coolest man alive, Masashiro Kuroda? Is that right?
During the Swiss, I don't have the number on that. That would be interesting to find out.
I have a sneaking feeling that I may be right about that. Someone will nod or shake their head or go, "You're an idiot."
Sure.
But we'll see.
Back in the game, Ming Shi had a monstrous play on his turn with the Changeling hero, not only serving as a powerful blocker against his opponent's hordes, but also getting him back in the life race and still able to mill his opponent. And, of course, used the Drowner of Secrets trick during his opponent's upkeep to keep an Elvish Branchbender off the table.
One thing that always intrigues me, all these guys, they're very young, and you see that when they're playing Magic, they're shuffling their cards constantly, just flicking between two. And I'm wondering, in 50 years' time, how many Magic players are going to have arthritic hands? You know, from all this, like, yeah, I've done this 50 times per turn.
For X amount of tournaments, for X amount of years. No, it's actually a sign of nervous tension most often. And if you watch some of the older players, some of the more experienced players who've had a lot of success at Magic the Gathering, they don't do it as much because they recognize it can potentially be used as a tell.
I tell you what, you talk about nervous tension. If you ever want a comedy moment at a Magic tournament, particularly at something like a PTQ, what I want you to do is just go and sit on the floor where you can see a whole row of Magic players, and you watch those knees pumping up and down as people are trying to decide what to do.
Yep.
It's an absolute festival of jogging on the spot. It's incredible.
Ming's going to take a look at his opponent's graveyard. One of the important benefits of playing a strategy like his where you're decking the opponent, of course, it's not as relevant here because he got to see his opponent's deck list, but you get to see most of the cards in their deck, and occasionally during the Swiss you'll have pros who recognize that the writing's on the wall, that they're not going to beat their opponent who's milling them, and they'll pack it in early to make sure they can hide some of the information, perhaps a Wrath of God or a removal spell that would prove relevant for the second game.
Absolutely. Now that's pretty advanced play. If you're thinking, what's Bill talking about there, that is the kind of thing that when you've played half a dozen years and you're kind of at top PTQ level and pro level, you're starting to think, what is my value in playing on here? I maybe have, you know, one out in the deck that can maybe get me back into the match. Much more likely he'll find out more, and I'd much rather have a 55% chance in the next game than make that a 45% chance. Yeah, so that is pretty advanced theory there, and I guess that's why we hired you, Bill.
Yeah. Many great writers like Zvi Mashevitz have said, you know, Magic's a game of information, and the more you have, the better chances are of winning. So Ming had made that great play with the Changeling hero last turn, but things are not looking good for him. His opponent refuses to cooperate in not attacking and not playing more threats. It just keeps cluttering up that board.
Yeah, I mean, Ming would have loved to have played against Guillermo for Tapper's deck, which round about turn 6 was doing, laying some land and not very much else.
Yep.
But this is pretty monstrous. There's a lot of power on the table. Ming passes the turn back to Calafel, and Ming's having a look how many cards, and he says, yeah, on you go. So, kinship, no reveal, so yeah, on you go, draw. Just out of interest, would you ever run the bluff on that? So you're in the situation where you get to your kinship, and you've got a kinship card there, but it's really good, and so you just put it back on top, in the hope that he won't mill it away, because obviously you would have revealed it if it was kinship.
Yep.
And then you actually get your good spell. Have you ever run that bluff?
I haven't yet, but absolutely, when the payoff for getting the card that's on the top of your deck is greater than hitting on the kinship, you definitely run that bluff.
Yeah,
and,
so
hope your opponent doesn't get the read.
All right. So, Calafel doing some math. 7's the number you're looking for, my friend.
She nervously going through those cards again off camera.
I think that's the longest silence we've had on the webcast so far. I do apologise.
It's just an interesting game. Sometimes you just want to take a deep breath and look at what these players are doing and try to pick up on anything that they're giving away as information. As we see Calafel on camera, they're really focusing on his combat step and how he's going to play this out. No matter how overwhelming your board position is, when you're under the spotlights like this, you always wonder what your opponent could possibly have, because you're playing great players. They got here, you know, not through accident. You start to second guess yourself and think, what's the worst possible thing you could have?
Yeah.
And then wondering whether or not they've got it.
Now this is the monsters under the bed syndrome, as it's known, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes. As they say, it's not the monster under the bed you want to worry about, it's the burglar outside the door.
Yep.
Only one on tap.
No, Ming Shi quickly pulls that creature into the combat step in the red zone to make sure it's the only attacker.
Yeah, just him, right? Okay, good, thank you. All right.
We'll take 3.
Yeah, no room for anything else here. Sorry,
No.
very small red zone. All right.
Only one.
Mike Long, many years ago, people will remember his infamous name. Tried to pull something similar.
Next snap.